The morning the sound stopped is the kind of moment that lingers in a town. The ordinary noise of children playing that suddenly vanishes and leaves a silence you can feel. Picture this: a trailer on a gravel road, a backyard with a swing set, two young kids who had been seen the day before at a store with family, and then the adults in the home realize the little sounds of life are gone. Before we go deeper, if you want to keep seeing careful, up-to-date coverage on this case and others like it, please subscribe and hit the bell so you'll get a notification whenever we post new verified information. Now, what followed that quiet morning has spiraled into investigation after investigation, volunteer searches, endless tip lines, and, for many people who loved Lily and Jack, a slow, aching question. In those last unseen moments, what did these two children feel, notice, understand, or fail to understand about what was happening to them? Children live by routines and sensory cues. Even at 4 and 6 years old, Lily and Jack would have had little patterns that anchored them. The sound of the refrigerator kicking on, the dog barking outside, the lamp by the TV, the cadence of voices of the adults in the trailer. Those small signals tell a child whether the world is okay. When a child looks into a bedroom, as witnesses say Lily did, it can be curiosity, reassurance, or simply checking in. To an adult, the detail seems minor, but for a child it might be a quiet act of confirming safety. When those confirmations stop arriving, when the giggles fade and the house goes oddly still, children sometimes keep doing what comes naturally. They move toward the next interesting thing, they follow a familiar person, or they try to solve a small problem the way a child would, without the filtering mind adults usually apply in danger situations. Siblings often act as a unit in the world. The older sibling tends to lead, the younger follows. In dozens of missing child cases, older siblings who are barely older still will try to be brave and take charge, hand-holding the smaller child as if the world is simply a big playground. This sibling dynamic matters because it changes the likely behavior pattern. Lily, at 6, could easily have taken Jack's hand if something surprised or alarmed them, offering reassurance more than fear. That hand-holding can look, from a distance, like comfort. It can also make a moment of danger look calm to a passing eye. When a roadside witness later describes seeing a girl holding a younger boy's hand walking along the shoulder of a road, that gesture, so ordinary in context, takes on heavy meaning. Did they walk by choice, out of curiosity, or were they being led? The answer hangs on tiny psychological cues that vanish with time. Children are also highly attuned to adults' emotional tones. They read the cadence of speech, the tension in a hand, the way a voice softens. If an adult nearby is anxious but masks it, a child might still sense unease, but not process it as a threat. Conversely, if an adult speaks in a calm, friendly voice, children often trust that person in a way adults sometimes do not. That trust can be exploited, intentionally or not. A stranger who looks kind and speaks softly can be more persuasive to a child than a hurried or loud parent. This is why investigators always examine the possibility of someone outside the family interacting with the children, not because every stranger is dangerous, but because children's psychology makes them open to reassurance from people who, to an adult, might not be obviously threatening. Memory and time work differently for children. A child's recollection of an event is sensory and fragmentary. They recall touch, color, a fragment of a song, the way the grass felt under their feet, but rarely a chronological account in adult terms. For investigators, reconstructing those last hours often means piecing together fragments: a blanket in a ditch, a boot print on a trail, camera footage showing a family in the afternoon before. Each fragment is a shard of what a child might have seen or felt. The tear of a blanket might mean frantic movement. A boot print could mean a hurried exit. A camera clip of smiling faces the day before offers a baseline of normality. For family and community, however, these pieces are not just clues. They are lived images that must be reconciled with the fear of what the missing children experienced in their last waking moments. Witness psychology is complicated and sometimes unreliable, and yet witnesses are often the way missing child cases move forward. People remember what they expect to remember, and the human brain fills gaps with plausible details. When a witness on Gairloch Road later reported seeing a girl and a younger boy walking hand-in-hand toward Westville near a park sedan, that sighting mattered. But it must be tested. Any single recollection can be distorted by the stress of knowing children are missing, by distance, by the shortness of a glance. Witnesses commonly estimate ages and clothing differently under pressure, and peripheral features, the color of a vehicle, the age of an adult, can shift in memory. That's why investigators seek multiple blind confirmations, additional sightings, dashcam footage, or surveillance that either corroborates or contradicts a memory. The psychology of the witness can both help and mislead. Careful verification is the only fix. For the children themselves, the difference between wandering and being led is more emotional than logical. A child who decides to wander usually does so out of curiosity or a specific desire, to see an animal, to follow a sound, to find a place they remember. Adults might say they wandered off, but a child's wandering is rarely an abstract choice. It's about immediate interest. Being led, by contrast, involves trust. A child trusts an adult who smiles and speaks softly. A child will be more likely to follow an adult who appears to know where they're going. The presence or absence of boots and a backpack in the morning tells part of that story. Missing boots suggest speed, a sudden exit, or the kids being moved. A taken backpack could indicate someone prepared for movement. But none of those facts, by themselves, identify motive. They only shape psychological possibilities. Think about fear in a child's body. Fear is fast and primal. In many children's memories, or in what we can infer about their experiences, fear appears as a narrowing of attention, a focus on a hand, a voice, a face. Panic in a child often brings a desire to return to a known adult. In some cases, a child may become frozen, unsure what to do. In others, they may become hyperactive, running away. Understanding those very different reactions is necessary when imagining Lily and Jack's last hours. Were they calm because they trusted the person with them? Were they quiet because they were asleep? Were they frantic and therefore moving fast? Each scenario implies different immediate experiences. The adult's recollections are also colored by trauma and exhaustion. Parents and caregivers who have endured a sudden loss often experience fragmented memory, shifting timelines, and the need to simplify a chaotic morning into something understandable. Statements like, "the kids were playing and then they were gone," are emotionally honest but clinically imprecise. Stress impacts the reliability of recall. Sleep deprivation, adrenaline, and grief can all make times blur and sequences mix. Police understand this, which is why investigative work relies on cross-checking family statements with objective records, CCTV footage, store receipts, phone pings, toll records. When family statements change over time, like adjusting a bedtime from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m., for example, investigators don't immediately assume malicious intent. They recognize the human mind grappling with trauma. Still, those shifts make reconstructing the final hours more difficult. Forensic fragments, the pink blanket and a boot impression, carry their own psychological weight. Objects associated with a child can become touchstones for both investigators and mourners. The blanket, found not at the home but down a lane and in a bin in torn pieces, raises questions. Was it dragged, torn in a hurry, or discarded? To a child, a blanket is a comfort item. Seeing it on the road could mean the child moved away and lost it, someone else moved it, or it was placed there afterward. The boot print, if correctly matched to a child's shoe size, suggests the child was on that trail. But here's the chilling nuance. Prints do not tell a story on their own. They tell presence. Psychological interpretation must remain cautious. A print indicates where a person walked, not why. Investigators also look for sequence consistency. A child-sized footprint on a pipeline trail and a sighting of a girl and boy walking by a parked car can either fit together neatly or point in different directions. In the first fit, the children may have left the home, walked toward the road, and met someone in a car. In the second, either the sighting was of different children or the footprint belongs to a different time. The emotional consequence for a family watching this unfold is intense. Each possibility evokes a very different image of what the children felt. There is also the complex psychology of rumor and attention. Cases like this attract intense social scrutiny, social media sleuthing, speculation, and sometimes hostile commentary. That outpouring affects the people closest to the case. It can push a parent further into privacy, complicate their willingness to speak, or put pressure on investigators to act publicly before evidence is fully vetted. For Lily and Jack's family, the torrent of online theories can be both helpful and harmful. It can generate tips that lead to answers, or it can drown useful leads in noise. The community must remember that everyone involved is human and under pressure, that the psychology of public pressure can create distortions as dangerous as silence. What does psychology say about the very last minutes of a missing child's life, in general? First, children rarely think in terms of long-term consequence. If they feel drawn by an immediate curiosity or by a comforting adult, they act on that pattern. Second, children are impressionable to social cues. They mimic adult calm. Third, siblings often cling to each other, which both gives them strength and creates a single track of movement investigators can follow. Fourth, children's sense of time is different. The last minutes may stretch and contract in their perception. For investigators, these facts mean searching for behavioral signatures, the kind of movement pattern a child is likely to exhibit, not just geographic traces. Practically, these psychological observations guide the next steps investigators take and the ways the community can help. If a child is inclined to follow a familiar adult, then checking routes to nearby residences or relatives becomes vital. If children tend to wander toward water or clearings because they like open spaces, those areas must be searched more intensely. If a child reacts to calm voices, then CCTV and dashcam evidence of adult vehicles in the area become crucial. Observers with dashcam footage, even of a car driving slowly along Gairloch Road the morning of May 2nd, are essential. The smallest detail, a type of hubcap, a dent, a shirt color, can validate a witness memory and move the investigation forward. Human behavior under uncertainty is another psychological layer. When official updates are sparse, people fill in blanks with narrative. That is why investigators must be precise and public messaging measured. A clear ask, if you were on Gairloch Road between 9 and 10 a.m., check your dashcam, is far more useful than speculation. For community volunteers, disciplined searching with clear chains of custody for evidence prevents contamination and preserves the forensic power of items like a blanket fragment. The emotional toll on families is immense and touches the community in particular ways. Parents' minds oscillate between hope and dread. They replay the last normal day and fix on little errors they think they made. Friends try to help but sometimes say the wrong thing. Social media becomes a loud room full of people talking at once, often with little to go on. The psychological focus for anyone connected must remain on verified action. Call the RCMP with tips, preserve any footage, and resist amplifying unverified claims that could mislead. As we imagine the last hours Lily and Jack experienced, the picture is partial and stubborn. The children may have walked willingly, curious and trusting. They may have followed a known adult or been picked up in a car. They may have been frightened quickly and reacted in a way we cannot now rebuild. What we do know from the small sensory facts and from how children behave in general is that they were likely guided by immediate, present-moment cues, a voice, a hand, a promise of something familiar. Their emotional world in those final minutes was probably limited to comfort or alarm in front of them, not to the larger questions adults ask after the fact. The final thought to carry is one of practical hope. The psychological picture gives us direction. People who were there know things because humans tend to notice anomalies in routine. A driver who slowed to look at a family by the road, a person who took out their phone and filmed a moment, a neighbor who heard an unfamiliar engine. Any of these small acts can unlock a timeline. If you have dashcam footage, a receipt, or any memory from that day, share it with investigators. If you live near the route, keep an eye on unusual activity in both recent and older footage. Sometimes a clue appears weeks later when someone rechecks a file. Imagining what Lily and Jack felt in their last hours is heartbreaking precisely because children experience the world simply, quickly, and without the layered defenses adults have. They perceive color and touch and voice and then act. By using what we know about child psychology, witness behavior, and forensic context, investigators can prioritize searches, test leads, and, hopefully, find the practical traces that lead back to those final, crucial moments. The community's best role is to stay calm, stay alert, and keep feeding verified information to the official channels. In cases like this, the smallest factual detail can bring light to what otherwise is only fear and shadow.